Chargers Now is presented by PrizePicks. I am your host, Will Ortner, and today we are going to go through my final mock draft for the Los Angeles Chargers as we are on draft eve. That's right. The NFL draft gets underway on Thursday, a.k.a. tomorrow, and we're going to make sure that we go through my kind of final picks, see if I can get it right and see who the Chargers are going to end up taking in this draft. Now, remember, the Chargers, they have 5 picks left to go. No trades ended up happening. I didn't like any of the trades that were offered my way as I did my best general manager Joe Ortiz impersonation. But the Chargers do have a first-round pick, multiple day 2 picks, and multiple day 3 picks. Right now, the biggest need for the Chargers is in that interior offensive line, although it does look like Ione is going to end up not being a Los Angeles Charger. Edge rusher, interior defensive line, and safety are all big needs as well for this squad. Going to be very interesting to see what general manager Joe Ortiz does. Share this video on social media. Give me a tag, if you will, at Will Ortner. One, because it's going to help bring more people into the Chargers Now fam, but it's also going to be able to really put my takes out there. If I'm right, well, there's going to be a lot of Chargers fans that know to come and join us. If I'm wrong, there's going to be a lot of Chargers fans that know to come and throw a little bit of tomatoes at my face. Let's get into that first pick. And now for pick number 22. We have decided to take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo, for the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, the reasoning for this, Ione was already off the board. There weren't any other offensive linemen that really made sense there, and safety is a position that the Chargers don't necessarily need, but could definitely get younger at. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, while maybe not going up against the best competition in the MAC, has been very, very impressive in what he was able to do. Does a great job of getting guys down on the ground. He's also a ball hawking safety. He's that new age of safety that's able to play in the box a little bit more. Allows the Chargers to be more multiple with Derwin James, so that way he doesn't always have to play in the big nickel position. But it also allows the Chargers to make certain decisions over in that safety room, because Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is someone that can play deep safety. He can play in the box. He's just honestly a very versatile player. And we look at the Chargers safety room right now. Yeah, Bolden and Jefferson, they're great. But Jefferson, he's already retired one time. He's an elder statesman at this point. I definitely believe that you can always improve and continue to improve in that safety room, so you shouldn't just look at a guy like Elijah Molden and say, oh, we're good here. Derwin James is pretty good. He's going to probably get an extension. At least that's what general manager Joe Ortiz is making it sound like. But I will say that it's not like the safety room is all that young. Honestly, the defense isn't all that young in Los Angeles. So Emmanuel McNeil-Warren could very easily be someone that comes in here as a plan B or C option to help, one, get the defense younger, but two, and more importantly, allow it to have multiple different avenues to be used. I think the Seahawks showed that when you have a bunch of players that are kind of positionless, it's impressive what you're going to be able to do. Defensive coordinator Chris O'Leary, he's going to run a similar style defense. I think he'd love for it to be positionless. Before we get into the rest of my picks, I need to let you know that today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. The playoffs are here for basketball. Baseball's underway, and it's time to cash in with PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports pick app. It's the best place to win cash while watching sports. To qualify for a PrizePicks lineup, super easy. Pick 2 to 6 players and select more or less on stat projections, including points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers. If you're more of a basketball guy, if you're more of a baseball guy or gal, you can choose stats such as hits, home runs, and strikeouts, or a multitude of other stats across multiple other sports. With the new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. That includes myself and producer Searle. You follow us on PrizePicks and get the picks before they even get posted on the show. I have a lineup for the action going on this evening in basketball. Cade Cunningham, more on his points, rebounds, and assists. Desmond Bain, more on his points, rebounds, and assists. New user offer. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with PrizePicks. Clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description of this video. Next player that we ended up taking in this mock draft, some of you are going to say it's a little bit of a reach, but I'm definitely okay with taking Keylan Rutledge as a bit of a reach. Fantastic guard out of Georgia Tech. I've been very impressed with everything that I've heard from him when it comes to being a pure offensive lineman type of a guy. When we look at O-line, I think it's easy for people to just say, oh, he's big, he's strong, he's powerful. Well, when I look at a guy like Rutledge, it's more about the makeup. Is he putting his hands where they need to be? Is he not allowing opposing defensive players, specifically defensive linemen, to get off of him? And he comes from a Georgia Tech team that is known for being very nitty and gritty down below. Well, when I look at the PFF grades, look, they're not everything. They're not the end-all, be-all. He does pretty darn well. And I understand that in the ACC, it's not the same as the Big Ten or the SEC. You're still going up against a lot of proper defensive talent, and you're going up against some of the best defensive players in the country. I thought that Rutledge has been very clear to me as a draft riser because of the success that he's had, and he continues, the more that you put on his film, to get more and more valuable, in my personal opinion. Now, I know he's a reach, and I got kind of knocked on it by a couple of people here in the Chat Sports offices, but my reasoning here is look at the positional value. You need interior offensive linemen, and I don't want to necessarily wait until Jalen Farmer all the way in that third round. Not saying that Farmer is a bad pick, and if the Chargers end up taking him, I'll sit here and say that I have always liked his tape. I just think if you can get a guy like Rutledge early on, that's always going to be a good thing. I also believe that he's a Harbaugh type of a guy. Harbaugh likes football guys. Guys that are going to wake up at the butt crack of dawn, grab their lunch pail, and come in and work. That are going to be gritty, mean, and nasty. Afraid to eat birds, a.k.a. afraid to eat chicken, because that is a scared bird. I guess he's kind of come around to them now a little bit. But when we look at the offensive line depth chart, I think it's an easy plug and play right at left guard. Trevor Penning should not be a starter on this team. In fact, I don't know that I necessarily believe that Trevor Penning should be a starter in the National Football League. Now, I'm not necessarily 1,000% gung-ho on Cole Strange being in the position that he's in either, but I do believe that there is a clear upgrade waiting to happen at left guard, and Rutledge is that guy. I want you to predict it down below in the comment section. Will the Chargers use a day 2 pick on a guard? Seems less and less likely now that they're going to be able to make a day 1 pick on a guard, and if they're not able to trade back, well, then the guard needs to get taken in day 2. Let me know what your opinion is down below in the comment section, yes or no. We're going to get a little bit wild here because I took Ted Hurst, the Georgia State wide receiver, with my third round pick with the Chargers. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by this pick here because Hurst is someone that the Chargers don't necessarily need. The wide receiver room is good. And he's someone that hasn't gone up against some of the best competition in the world. But I'd say that every single year, he's gotten better and better. And you have to remember that last year at Georgia State, he was essentially their entire offense. His receiving yardage numbers ended up making up for right around a third of their yardage. Now, obviously, playing at Valdosta, a very good D2 school, hashtag D2, we chose you, and playing at Georgia State, there are competition questions and competition issues. Is Hurst a lower competition merchant? Well, this is why I say it's a boom or bust pick. Make the pick on the measurables. Make the pick on the film that you have seen and trust that he is going to grow into being a really good player in this league. Hurst, very fast, very athletic, able to go and high point the football. When we look at the wide receiver depth chart right now for the Chargers, Ladd McConkey, Trey Harrison, Quentin Johnson, they're all fine. They're all young. A couple of them, Ladd McConkey in general, has shown that they can have a lot of success in this league. Although I don't want to poo-poo on Quentin Johnson because he's had success as well. It's clear that the Chargers like to run this 3 wide receiver unit out, but I think that they can add to it with a guy like Hurst. And if Hurst is able to grow into the weapon that I think he can be, well, then this guy is going to be pretty damn excited about it. Last year was pretty darn good for Herbert when it came to throwing the football, but he got beat up a lot because he got sacked a lot, and that led to more interceptions, that led to lower numbers, and it led to injuries for him. I think if you go in and you attack day 2 the way that I have by getting an offensive guard and getting him another weapon at wide receiver, I think he's going to be pretty damn happy and pretty damn excited for everything that the Chargers have got going on. Next, let's talk about an interior defensive lineman because the Chargers, we missed out on Sexy Dexy. He's not going to be coming. So let's try and go get a interior defensive lineman in college that can grow into a bigger role for this team. Let's insert Tim Keenan here. Now, I would make the argument that the 2025 season for Keenan was very disappointing. Now, his pressure numbers essentially still the same, but not getting nearly as many tackles or TFLs is going to be something to keep an eye on. Now, the interior defensive line for the Chargers, I would not say is weak, but I also would not say that it is strong either. Between Tart, Tomlinson, and Caldwell, you have a solid group. Not necessarily a great group, but a group that I do think if you add more and more depth to it is only going to continue to be stronger. You don't need to have a bunch of superstars there. I think that with a lot of the success that you saw last year in the National Football League from teams like the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks, and the New England Patriots, that depth can be a key there. If you have a bunch of Bs, is better than having maybe one A and a bunch of Cs. So if you have a bunch of guys that are grading out in that B level, well, shoot, the more Bs that you throw at a problem, the more success that you're going to be able to have. And I think that a guy like Keenan, if he's able to go back to what he was his junior year, you're going to see a lot more success for him, and you'll see a lot of success for this Chargers team. Last but certainly not least, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I got real effing weird. Eli Heidenreich. Let's talk about the Navy fullback / wide receiver, because this is a guy that I find very fascinating, very interesting in the National Football League. Now, when you look at what he was able to do over at the University of Navy, or the Naval Academy, I should say, this is a player that does a great job of catching the football out of the backfield. Doesn't have a ton of drops, also doesn't have a lot of opportunities to catch the football, but he definitely makes the most of his opportunities. Now, his RAS scores are absolutely off the chart, and he's the type of player that has freakish athleticism despite maybe not being quite as big or as tall as most people would necessarily want. He also went to Navy, so how would he actually do in the National Football League? There's still some work to be done there. But I will say this, if this is a guy who's able to hit, well, that's another huge weapon that the Chargers would be able to have. I didn't feel like I was able to find necessarily any other interior offensive lineman that I really wanted to take a risk with. So why not take a risk with the guy from the Naval Academy? At the very least, you know he will be smart, and he will put this team in the best position to have success. Here's my Chargers mock draft. I got Emmanuel McNeil-Warren in the first round, Keylan Rutledge and Ted Hurst in the second and third. And then my day 3 guys, I've got Tim Keenan and Eli Heidenreich. Grade my latest Chargers mock draft. Do you like what I did? Do you not like what I did? A, B, C, D, or F down below in the comment section. Hopefully you're very pro what I did. Understand that it was a lot of taking the best player available because I think the Chargers are in that position, while also making sure that I looked at positional need. So there's a couple guys early on that got taken just because they were the best player available in that position of need. And there are also guys that were projected to go around that spot. And they were guys that, frankly, I watched the film and I really like what they're doing. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Hit that subscribe button. We're going to have a ton of videos coming out over the next 3 to 4 days. We've got the first round, second and third, and of course, 4th, 5th, and 6th, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Videos galore for myself and producer Cyril. And guess what? We're going to be working on Sunday as well, making sure that we're tracking all the undrafted free agents that the Chargers sign. If you want to know about anything going on with the Chargers this weekend, we are going to be here for you. We're not taking any off days. This thing is 365. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Make sure that you bolt up.